Hello, I'm joined this week by a very happy Irishman in Shawnee. Mate, how was your weekend?
Very good weekend, yeah. Sure, Ireland got the win, which was most important. We didn't win in Leicester, London Irish though. So it was a mixed bag really, but happy in the end.
You were preparing for the London Irish game against Leicester so seriously. You went to a charity lunch on Friday, didn't you?
I did.
At Claridge's, ahead of the England-Ireland game, and you got to sit down with none other than Lawrence Dallaglio. How was it?
Yeah, it was good. It was it's a great lunch. The vibe in the room was very much a lot of Irish people looking forward to a very good weekend, and good chats with Lawrence, as always. Some interesting stories.
I've made my Five Nations debut, that's how old I am, not against Ireland, against France, in Paris. I was staying in the Trianon Palace in Versailles. I was rooming with Ben Clark, who was a bit of a hero at the time. He'd just come back from the Lions tour, voted the best player somehow on that tour. And I was rooming with him, and it was Thursday night before the game, and he said, I'll leave the door open. We always have a red wine club on a Thursday night, so I thought that's quite interesting. And he had a fag on the go, which eased me a little bit. And sure enough, all the forwards came in, waiter came in, 15 bottles of red wine later, 2 hours of drinking red, and just calming ourselves before the game in 2 days' time. Anyway, everyone left, and next morning, we're now 24 hours before the game, and he said, you better get rid of the evidence. So I said, well, what should I do? He said, stick it on a tray and put it outside Victor Obogu's room. So, sure enough, I put the dressing gown on. I mean, the room looked like an abattoir. Put the dressing gown on, got the tray, fags, 15 empty bottles of wine, looked down the corridor, thought the coast is clear, walked down the corridor, just about to put the tray down. England coach, Jack Rowell, walks around the corner, and he bumps into me, holding a tray, 15 empty bottles of red wine, 24 hours before the game, Marlboro lights, everything. He went, ooh. He said, this doesn't look very good, does it? I went, no, it doesn't look very good. And then as if my life couldn't get any worse, the dressing gown then opened up. It didn't look any better, by the way, just so we're clear. And he said, who are you rooming with? And I said, quick as a flash, Victor Obogu. And he just looked at me and he said, you're playing your first game for England tomorrow? I said, yeah. He said, best you play well tomorrow. I went, yeah, best I fucking do. And then I got back to Ben Clark. He said, where the hell have you been? He had another fag on the go. I said, look, it's not good. He said, what do you mean? I said, best you play well tomorrow. So yeah, I think the game has changed somewhat. I think that was 1996, I think.
Wow. I mean...
Red wine club.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a great club to be part of, but things have changed quite a bit. Moving on, Shawnee, the Six Nations are back this weekend, and that means one thing, a musical roundup from our wonderful Ollie.
The Frenchies had a tough game on Friday, as the Welsh had them back on the ropes. Davies looked like he was in the corner, then he dropped it like a big bar of soap. But the French held on and now Wales are fifth, staying in the wooden spoon race. A French Grand Slam that's there for the taking, like a snail on a Parisian plate. Scotland, Italy is quite often a fixture you were happy to miss, but it was full of good tries as Scotland scored 5 to plunge Italy into the abyss. Harris capped off a hell of a try after Ali Price's wonderful feat. Capuoso scored 2, but the Salami army knew that they were facing yet another defeat. Charlie Hughes' game against Ireland was less impressive than a Boris excuse, but it sparked something special in England, who fought till they were battered and bruised. Gench had Ty Furlong on toast like a melting lump of Kerry gold, but the Irish showed character to finish the job, leaving England's hopes out in the cold. Week 4.
I don't know about the tune of that one though, this week.
I thought the lyrics were very, very good.
Lyrics very good.
But perhaps a bit too upbeat for me.
Yeah,
I think.
he was going a bit quick or something.
But you do still owe him a performance.
Yeah, I'll try it. I'll give it a rap. Like,
what instrument are you going to use?
Tin whistle.
Tin whistle. It'd be impressive to hear you play the tin whistle and sing at the same time. But we'll get to that maybe.
I am a man of many talents.
Well, yep. So you tell us.
If anyone can do it, I can.
Well, no one's ever said that. But you can believe all your own hype. But moving on to Friday night, Wales France. Didn't quite go the way many people expected. What did you make of it?
I thought initially, when the way they started, I was like, here we go, this is going to be a very dominant display. But then Wales, typical Wales, I suppose, they got back into it. They stayed working incredibly hard. Their kicking game was very, very impressive. France didn't really know what to do with them. when they got into that battle for a while. And then nearly at one point I said, geez, Wales could snatch this just because they were at home, and France looked very nervous, I thought.
I thought the French were disappointing, and it was the problem for them was they scored early, and therefore they sort of shut up shop. They stopped playing. They got very conservative and allowed Wales to come at them wave after wave. And the two biggest areas where France have been dominant in the Six Nations has been the kicking game, where they've just kicked so long and waited for people to kick badly and counter or kick short, and the line out. And Wales dominated both those areas. Do you think it was a missed opportunity for Wales?
Some of the decisions I thought they made in terms of when they got field position and penalties, I thought they should have kind of turned the screw maybe a little bit. Just with France looked like they didn't have answers to a lot of stuff for a long period of time. And again, Wales were putting all the pressure on them and winning the scraps and stuff like that. And I just thought they could have been a bit more ruthless.
Is that a sign of Wales' Six Nations, though, particularly where they've struggled with their attack? It's been clunky, it's been disjointed.
Yeah, it hasn't fired properly.
Yeah, and they had so much possession, chances to really go at France.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's what they'll look back on, I think, and be most disappointed with. Yeah, definitely a missed opportunity, but France were in second gear, maybe third at times. They won't be happy with their performance at all.
So you mentioned the pressure. Do you think it's going to be a very dangerous game for them this weekend? At home, expectation to win, crowd behind them, and that added pressure. They haven't won a Six Nations title since 2010. That added pressure, going for a Grand Slam. Do you think that's something that is a real worry for the French in the way they finished up the game against Wales, particularly?
Yeah, I think it's something that England will try and exploit a little bit at the start.
Eddie's already come out and started to play the mind games and say the pressure's all on them and how they deal with it, etc.
Yeah, 100%. And regardless of if they don't pay attention to that, they'll hear it, they'll see it somewhere, it'll be in papers, it'll be all over the place. They'll know themselves as well, being at home, like they'll have their home comforts obviously this week, but still they know they have to go out and perform against an England team who I think they found a little bit of what they were missing last weekend, and they'll get a lot of confidence from that, and I think they'll go there and just have a crack this week. If they can perform like they performed against Ireland over there, they won't be far away from France. Like, France aren't unbeatable either. They're just playing very, very well at the minute. For
me, the French, it's not that they're getting found out, but people are realising that if you give them no territory, then they actually play no rugby. You know, everyone said it wasn't a great game, the Wales-France, so much kicking. It's because the French kick more than anyone. But, of course, there are then points where they get really loose, the French, and then that man, Antoine Dupont, just pulls something out of nothing. They're going nowhere, and bang, he just gets his hands through and throws a ridiculous offload, and away they go.
He actually bounced Navidi
Yeah.
at the start of that as well. Like, not a very easy man to bounce, let me tell you. And then like the offload, and then another offload.
Yeah, and that's when they're getting behind, they're dangerous.
Yeah.
Talking of Antoine Dupont, I just saw there was quite a few supporters there in the famous yellow robe that he's made famous since his GQ shoot. I think you can see him here, looking as if the world's on his shoulders, and it's looking pretty hench there. But there was a lot of fans there wearing them, as you can see, all Antoine Dupont's. I think he met them afterwards as well for a beer, I think, or a photo maybe. There he is, having a photo with them. They're pretty happy with their evening's work. They've got a win, and they get to meet Antoine Dupont. So
Best player in the world.
even. So fair play to him.
Yeah.
Moving on to the Scotland game. They beat Italy 33-22. Not particularly impressive from Scotland there. Expected more?
Yeah, I definitely did expect more from them. I just don't think... It was one of those games where you look at them and you're thinking, there's definitely more in yous, but they just didn't bring it out. You know, you kind of look at the intensity of that first game they played against England, and then you look at the intensity last weekend. It's chalk and cheese. So I don't know whether it's a mental thing that they're kind of not where they need to be at this level to actually go and be really, really ruthless, and you know, back up a performance on a performance on a performance all the time.
So their consistency for you is letting them down?
Their consistency,
or is it the emotional consistency, skill level?
I think it's a bit of both. I think you know, they were so physical in that first game, and it brought so much energy to it, and we kind of haven't seen that since. That I think is emotional energy. especially against England for them, because it's one of the biggest games of the year for them. But how can they get themselves to that level where they're so consistent, where they just blow teams away if they were like that? I think they would have won by 30 points at the weekend if they just had more intensity and more accuracy in the way they play the game.
I think it's a huge part for them. They're not the biggest team, the most physical side naturally, so they have to be right on the level like when they're playing England, but every single time. Because when they're a very difficult side. Because then they're the extra intent in the carry, extra bite in the tackle. Unfortunately, they're just so inconsistent with that for me, and that's when the problems occur.
On the flip side of that though as well, just for Italy, they're well organised now in certain areas of their game, and they never stop. Defensively, they're sound enough at times. Yeah, you can find space on them after multi-phase and stuff, but in general they're actually improved a lot in bits of their game. So they're not as easy to break down as they used to be. But I still think with the quality Scotland had, they should have been at a bigger level.
Well, then we saw England take on Ireland, and we sent Josh Pieters down to Twickenham to get amongst the fans.
Hi, I'm Josh Pieters, and we're here at Twickenham Rugby Stadium today with the House of Rugby for the clash between England and Ireland in the Six Nations. We're going to be talking to some England fans, some Irish fans, and probably some guys who played rugby at a really high level but never quite made it.
How does it start?
Players to look out for today?
Sexton. Lonely prison walls. He's the governor.
He's the governor.
He's coming to invade Twickenham.
Tell me about the coach. Colour coordinated, coincidence?
Colour coordinated.
Now, you seem to be a man who really knows his rugby. Did you play rugby yourself?
I did, yeah. I played for England, yeah.
Just a slightly naughty story from British North. You know, get it
On tour, stays on tour, doesn't it?
Let's go have some fun. Do you have a story you can share with us, your best rugby story?
We used to play with a guy called Two Limb Jim.
Right.
He played with only one leg, and when he retired, he gave us his leg.
Who are we supporting today?
Who do you think?
Well, I don't know, because you've got a scarf supporting each team. But why was he...
He gave us his leg to drink out of. So when you're the youngest tourist, you have to drink out of the leg.
How come you called him Two Limb Jim if he was just missing the...
He called himself Two Limb Jim.
No, but he was only missing the one leg.
And an arm. I missed that bit out.
Now, you seem to be a man who really knows his rugby. Did you play rugby yourself?
I did, yeah. I played for England, yeah.
You played for it, so you've obviously played rugby at quite a high level.
I have, yeah.
Now, slightly controversial, they're looking at banning the singing of Sweet Chariot inside the stadium. What do you think about that?
Kidding me? If they ban that, I'm going to circumcise myself.
Were you quite unlucky to not make it in the professional game?
I did play in the professional game. I played 15 years. 5 years with Sale Sharks and 10 with Northampton Saints.
Has there been a game this tournament that stood out for you, your favourite game of the tournament so far?
No.
You never quite made it to the England setup though?
No, I did. I played 34 times for England.
You played 34 times for England. Which position did you play?
Fullback.
What do you think of the player, the South African-born player who might get a debut today? His name is Takin Lapis.
Takin Lapis.
Takin Lapis, yeah.
I've never heard of this guy before.
Did you hear about the controversy involving the Irish team earlier this week?
No. What is it?
So what happened was they got caught in one of the players' rooms. I think it was Jonny Sexton's room, actually, having an alcohol-fueled KY jelly wrestling match.
I didn't hear that.
No. That's a common game that we play regularly.
And how does that work?
Oh, no, I don't want to go into the details, man. You'll have to join in one day.
Okay, you got it. One day I'll join in. Oh, if you just say I'm very excited to see Takin Lapis playing today.
I'm very excited to see Takin Lapis playing today.
So I think whatever happens today, we can all agree that rugby was the winner.
That was obviously shot before kick-off, showing how the high spirits that the fans were in already. Fode's taking a bit of a hammer in there as well. I don't think he quite realised the guy was taking the mick. He's playing along, which is unlike Fode's because he's a very relaxed character, but really wanted to make the point that he played for England and Sale and Northampton.
Make sure you get that in there.
Yeah, didn't mention his MLR career.
Exactly, the amount of caps as well.
So on to the England-Ireland game. A lot to talk about, but let's start with the red card to Charlie Ewels. Any doubts for you?
No.
So playing devil's advocate.
Just got his timing wrong.
Yeah, playing devil's advocate. It's getting now to the point where obviously the defender has to be responsible for the attacker's welfare. Do you think there's getting more and more situations now where line speed's everything in defence? You rush up, a player moves or doesn't move, and you try and get your head out of the way, and you end up catching it. You know, are there examples where you have to be like, he's not trying to go head on, he's trying to get his head out of the way, and the guy moves his head towards you? You know, is there grey areas? I'm not saying that one is, but is it getting harder? You know, do you have to have some empathy as a referee for those situations?
I think you do. Like, it's a tough one, but we know the rules now. Like, so it's up to us to get our technique right as best we can. Anyway, I know, like, there's, you know, you see that in real time and you think, oh, it's just bad timing. Like, you don't see any intent or like malice in it or anything like that. But it's a tough one. It's a tough one for referees. It's a tough one for teams to take. It's tough on the player. Being sent off that early in such a humongous game. It was tough on Ireland. It made it more difficult for them, I think.
It was one of the best spectacles or best rugby games, maybe for a purist or someone like us who we love rugby, at Twickenham I've seen for a long time.
Yeah.
The result was probably going one way, but you saw the crowd atmosphere lifted. Tactically, it was really interesting, and Ireland had to adapt and get their stuff right, and wasn't going perfectly to plan.
No.
And it was a late, win in a sense.
Yeah.
I mean, being a really good game.
I think it was an incredible England performance. I think the atmosphere was electric. I only seen the second half of it because we were playing, so I was watching on the phone, and I was just thinking to myself, England could have snatched this at some point. The emotional energy they had was incredible to see again, and we talked about physicality, and I always worry sometimes about being bullied or England bullying other teams, and I think they've done that for large periods of the game actually at the weekend.
But it was a huge result for Ireland at the weekend. Winning at Twickenham is massive, and you can see here from Bundy Aki and some of the boys on the bench how much it meant.
Yeah, I think Ireland, even though they were favourites coming into this, they knew that England would come and fire a few shots, and to win in England is a tough place, and it's good to see the boys having a bit of excitement afterwards and enjoying the whole win.
Just on Maro Itoje, I mean, obviously I'll be accused of being biased. Is there a better forward in World Rugby at the moment? The way he played the weekend, considering he hadn't slept the night before with illness, we don't know the ins and outs, but some performance.
He was everywhere. But like, he is by far one of the best players in the world, like in that second row position. But the other thing about it is he made most of the back rowers on the field the other day look very ordinary, and they're very good players who are playing with him and against him. He's just operating on a different level at the weekend, and that's why he is this kind of massive leader in terms of energy and physicality and just his smartness as well on the field. He was absolutely incredible. What's like you play with him week in, week out? What's he like on and off the field then? I know from training with him before that he's exactly the same as he plays like. But like outside of that,
I mean on the field he's I say it's incredible. You just see it every week. His consistency levels are off the chart. Every week he's brilliant. Like whether it's playing at Kingston Park in Newcastle and there's 2,000, 3,000 people playing, it's windy, he's amazing. Whether it's at Twickenham in a final, he's amazing. He doesn't drop below a level ever. But it's the influence he has. It's just phenomenal. Whether it's breakdown, maul defence, running the line out, carrying, it's just brilliant what he does, and he's a joy to play with. But he's also off the back of that, off the field, just a really good guy, has a really good way about him. He's very calm around the place. He never shouts or screams or ever seems to lose his rag. He's always very calm exterior, but at the same time demands a lot. Running a line out, as you know, the leader takes a lot on his shoulders, expects a lot. If people get their assignments wrong, he'll call them up on it, but in a way which isn't screaming, shouting. Get your roles right. Sit down with them afterwards. Why are you getting this wrong again and again? Let's fix it now. He wants to fix it up and make sure everyone has that clarity.
Himself and DuPont are my two favourite players at the minute.
Yeah, and your friend Jonny Sexton, such a good friend. You've never managed to get him on the show, but said he's going to retire after the 2023 World Cup.
Yeah.
What kind of loss will that be for Ireland?
It's definitely going to be a loss because he's still operating. He's still the best operator in that 10 shirt by a long shot, I think.
There's a big difference when he's you see when he's not there.
Yeah.
Players.
Yeah.
Carberry's talent, but when he's there, there's a real
belief and an understanding, and he demands that from players as well. But he's phenomenal. To be operating with his kind of the way he plays the game, and how much he gets knocked about and stuff. He's, you know, it's a testament to how professional Johnny is. He looks after himself incredibly well. He puts a lot of pressure on himself. He's a standard driver. Has been since he was, you know, since I can remember anyway. He wouldn't be like an Itoje in terms of Johnny will let you know if you're not doing something right in an emotional way, but he will sit down with you afterwards, similar to that, and like dish it out with you and explain it to you and whatever else. And he's brilliant with the younger guys. And off the field, like Johnny's actually, like, everyone thinks, oh, he's just a grumpy guy, like, because he looks that way all the time, but he's not. Johnny is great company, great crack, great fella on the beer, great family man, like. And like, he is totally invested in what he does. Like, he's going to be a loss, obviously, to Irish rugby and Leinster rugby going forward, but I think the legacy he's going to leave behind is incredible for those younger boys coming through. It'll be a sad day to see him hang up his boots.
Has he ever dished it out to you before?
He definitely has. He's had lots of cuts off me over the years, and some of them probably justified and some of them really not, but it's just... do
you ever go back at him?
Yeah, we had one actually before I left Ireland, leading up into that last Six Nations that I played. I remember being on the opposite team 1 week. Sure.
All your stories involve you being in the bibs and being a menace.
Yeah, and basically I was obviously disappointed that I wasn't starting that week or something. I'm not sure what game it was, but we were only after talking about the referee and making sure we roll away quickly. And the first tackle Johnny went into, he was trapped on the wrong side, but I put my leg over him. Now, I didn't actually lean on him or anything, but he thought I did, and I remember him grabbing my shin and he started boxing my leg. He threw 2 slaps at my leg, and I kind of grabbed him by the collar or something, and he was still on the ground, and we were yapping at each other going away. And for the whole training session, he kept yapping at me, like, and I wouldn't really talk back to him that much, but I was kind of laughing at him going around. But afterwards, I remember he was like place kicking, and he was still talking to me. He was still like giving me loads of guff, and then I lost my head. Like, I remember being so upset after it, and I went back to the room in Carton House, and I was like welling up because I was angry. Like, I said, this fucker now, like I said, he's having a right pop off me here for no reason, like. But then he sent me a peace sign later that night.
Just as the tears are coming out, and you've got your pitchfork ready. You're like, I'm going to do him, and then.
But like, he'd drive you he'd infuriate you that way at times. But again, it would be all about because we said, like, make sure discipline is spot on. He got caught in there. He hated that fact as well.
Yeah. I mean, I love that. I'm quite impressed that you waited so long and you didn't just go and, you know, whack him with a pad or run out of line and try and club him. But
no, I actually
kept it together in the training session.
I remember Faz coming over to me because Joe was still coaching at that stage, and Faz says, just settle down, will you? Settle down and leave it. Because I was fired up and Johnny was fired up. But he knew I always had the best interests of the team at heart too, to be fair, and that I'd always show up for him when he needed me there. But yeah, sometimes we clash, definitely.
Moving on to the final round, though, of Six Nations, we still have the match point predictions, which you are ahead just now by 3 points.
I'm still ahead.
I am coming back at you, clawing back.
I'm still ahead.
We're about 250th on the leaderboard. Big shout out to Stuart Beard, who is still top of the league.
He's definitely cheating.
He's been up there from week one. He's obviously just somehow got an app where he can put the score in afterwards because he's doing so well. Next Saturday is the final day, so we'll go alternate to make it fair. Okay. Who are you going for? Wales versus Italy.
Wales.
By?
25.
On that. Wales by 28. Ireland versus Scotland, so I'll go first, shall I? I think Ireland by 18.
Ireland by 18, you reckon? I'm going more. I'm going Ireland by...
I'm going Ireland by 20.
You said 18.
No, I've changed. I'm just thinking about it.
You can't
20.
do that.
On 20. Unlucky.
Ireland by 20.
I've locked it in now.
I'm going Ireland by 26.
Okay. France versus England.
I am going France.
This is quite a tough one, right?
This is a tough one.
I didn't talk about this in the England bit, but as much as France, I'm worried about them in terms of like going for the trophy, the pressure, and that. it's really interesting to see how England back up such an emotional performance where they gave everything. To back that up again is hot. It could go one of two ways.
Yeah, I'm going France plus 12.
12.
Yeah.
See, I'm caught on the fence with it being really tight and then squeezing up over the line at home, or they get ahead early and then they force England to chase it. I think France by 8. I mean,
It'll be a dinger. It'll be a dinger of a weekend.
Well, Shawnee, it is time for Good Week, Bad Week, your favourite. And this week's Good Week is unbelievable. It goes to Spanish rugby, or the Spanish rugby national team. They've qualified for the 2023 World Cup. The first time in 24 years, they beat Portugal 33-28 on Sunday. And it was just incredible scenes. They'll be playing in Pool B against Scotland, Ireland and South Africa, which is a pretty tough group, to say the least.
Handy group
yeah,
for them.
you know, not the easiest, but you know, they've done so well and it's incredible. And even made the front page of a lot of the newspapers in Spain, which is so football dominated. So
That's
a
pretty
great
cool.
week for them, and really impressive. And Shawnee, who is this week's bad week?
This week's bad week is the infamous Jarvo 69. He got absolutely melted trying to get into England's national anthem lineup. Thankfully, someone's got him.
Yeah, I mean,
he's gotten away with this. He's gotten away with this way too much now at this stage.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I don't love it. I mean, look, it's been a good prank here and there in certain events.
Yeah.
But doing it in the national anthem for me is rubbish.
He should be just banned from every stadium in the world at the minute.
Yeah. And I know people say, "Oh, where's the fun in these guys?" You know, but it's national anthem. It's the one bit. You know, either anthem, you should just be respectful and everyone sings and gets behind. You know, there's a lot of history behind that. And Shawnee, who's going to sin bin this week?
Sin bin this week is Matt Giddo, even though he looks in still great nick.
Great nick at 39, though.
Riding his bike with his Speedos on. Fair play to him.
You're not against a pair of Speedos, are you?
No, I'd get into a pair of Speedos.
It wasn't the question if you get into them, Sean. I wasn't worried that much about your weight. But yeah, perhaps enough said. Well, that's all we've got time for. Thank you, Sean, for joining us. But thank you to Lawrence and to Josh also. This has been the House of Rugby. Find us on Joe YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts from.